Jöregelt kívánok, Kucs vagy. From, where am I? Bryce National Canyon Park. And, hmm, boy, you know, something about coffee, it tastes better in the forest. You know, look at this place. Look at how absolutely beautiful this place is. Can you smell those pines? Boy, put the camera. I know the camera went all, for whatever reason. The focus on this camera. The focus on this camera is not necessarily the best, but it's about 6:30 in the morning, and I gotta tell you, I slept like a baby. Sleeping on a table or not sleeping on a table. I'm not. I'm sleeping on a table, but there's cushions. Okay, I have cushions, and I have pillow, and I have sleeping bag, and all that. So for all intent and purpose, I'm snug as a bug in a rug. You know, would I rather be spooning? Would I rather be spooning? Be a bug in a rug spooning? Absolutely, not a doubt about it. I would much prefer to be spooning as a bug in a rug than not. But anyway, start of another day. There's not too much on my mind today, in all honesty. And I got to tell you, I woke to a text message. I woke to a rather unbelievable text message. I got a text message from my I got a text message from my a brother of mine back home, and there was a picture attached, and it was a picture of my house, the house that I grew up in. It was a picture of the house that I grew up in. One day they might turn that into a museum. They might have a little placard out in the front that'll say, this is the house where Tom Hall was born, or something like that. And charge. I don't know if they charge admission or not. Probably not. No, they probably nobody would pay to go in if they did. But anyway, the so I look at this picture, and my brother accompanied the picture with the text. It says, look what, look what Mike found on Google Earth." And I opened it up and I looked at it and I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Who is that in the backyard?" And I texted back. I said, "Is that Dad?" And he replied back and he said, "Yeah, that's Dad, looking straight at the camera." And it's kind of bizarre because you'd have to see it. I wish I could share the picture with you, or share the address, and you could go look yourself. But I'm not going to do that for the privacy of my brother living there. But but the Google Earth vehicle was going down the street, and my dad wouldn't have seen it. My dad would not have known that it was coming down the street because the backyard is well off the street. So Google Earth was coming up the street, and my dad just happened to be at the right spot at the right time. And there he was standing there, probably with this cup, I think it was a cup of coffee in his hand. And he was looking from the backyard out onto the street. And he was looking right at the camera. And I thought, oh my God, Google Earth, they update their pictures every, oh, I don't know how long it takes them. I don't know when the next time the Google Earth vehicle will drive down the street that house is on. But for the next, who knows, several years or decade or so, my dad is on Google Earth. What a trip, what an absolute trip. I mean, it's just his memory lives on. But God, I cherish the time that I spent with him. Those last 3 years, those last 3 years of his life that I had the opportunity to make him his breakfast and pack him his lunch and make him his dinner and bring him his ice cream in bed at night and take him here or take him there, take him to Costco on Saturday afternoons, watching him ride around in a little golf car around Costco getting the samples and all that. And I don't the videos that I did of him, all those videos I did of him, I seldom I go back and I look at them. It's not very often that I go back and I look at those videos. But anyway, that was one of the things that was on my mind today. The other thing, the other thing that's on my mind is I find myself once again in a position that I may be looking for the nearest airport. I may be, I don't know. Time will tell. Time will tell. My my LTC will. She's still sleeping like a bug in a rug, but time will tell if I'm heading to the nearest airport. And I was looking at the map this morning. I was looking at the map, and Phoenix is about 7 hours away. Las Vegas is only 4 hours away. San Francisco is 13 hours away, and Los Angeles is 8 hours away. So, take your pick. But anyway, if I do, if I do decide, if she does decide to catch the next flight out, I'm hell bent on showing her the ocean. I'm not putting her on a plane without showing her the ocean, whether she wants to see it or not. She's going to see the Pacific Ocean, and so that rules out Las Vegas, that rules out Phoenix, rules out Salt Lake City. And I think that if I come in just north of Los Angeles, if I come in just north of Los Angeles and take her the long route, to the San Francisco International Airport, that would mean the Pacific Coast Highway. It's my way or the it's what's the saying? It's my way or the highway, something like that. But she's not leaving until she sees the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean. But come hell or high water. Hmm. Come hell or high water, she's not leaving until she sees the beautiful Pacific Ocean, and that's that. Unless she calls an Uber, of course. I mean, if she calls an Uber, then she may not. But anyway, one of the over the years, different people have said different things to me, and sometimes somebody will say something that'll stick with me, and I'll never forget. I'll never forget. I don't remember the specific person that told me it, but years ago, when I found Christ, years ago when I became born again, I put everything I had into a tiny little storage unit in California. And I got in my little car and I drove across the country back to Ohio, back to Cleveland. I wanted to connect with my family again after all those years. And my life got turned around when I found God, when I became born again. And I went back home, and I know I've told this story before, but I went back home, and I got when I got back home, the house that I was just speaking of was in shambles. That house was in shambles. I couldn't believe. I just couldn't believe that my dad was living in that house in those conditions. But up the several years up until that point in time in my life, I had been working as a handyman, fixing things. I could fix anything. I could, put a roof on a house. I could build a fence. I could put in a irrigation system. I was doing everything, anything to make a buck and survive out in California. So I started. So I started working on my dad's house, and I spent that summer working on my dad's house. And I used to, I was a routine. I had very little to no social life back then. I have very little to no social life now, for that matter. But, but I I would go to the YMCA. There's a YMCA in a city nearby called Willoughby, and I would go up to the Willoughby YMCA every day after I'd be done. I'd usually go in the evening, or sometimes I go in the morning, but regardless. And there were always the same people sitting there in the men's locker room had this little TV area, with some sofas and a TV, and these old guys would always be sitting in there having their coffee, talking smack. And one day I was getting I was standing at my locker, and I was getting changed. And this guy next to me, he said, "You know what I appreciate about you, Tom?" I said, "No." I said, "No," as I'm standing there naked. I said, What do you appreciate about me?" Hoping that he wasn't going to say what I was thinking he was going to say. And he said, "You're going through life flying by the instruments." And I said, "What do you mean I'm going through life flying by the instruments?" And he said, he said, the flying by the instruments is a phrase that you often hear pilots talk about. And when pilots are going through a storm and they can't see what's ahead of them, they're relying on the instruments only. They can't see what's ahead of them. They're just relying on the instruments of the plane to get them through the storm. And and he said, you're flying by the instruments through life, and the instruments in your case is your faith in God. He said, it's your faith in God. He said, you're just going through life, and the instruments, you don't see what, people go through life, they don't see what's ahead of them. He said, but your faith has taken you through life. And I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that for as long as I live. Your faith is my faith is are the instruments taking me through the the unknowns of life. And it's kind of like the saying, the faith the size of a mustard seed. Faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. That's one of my favorite quotes. And you think about it. You think about that faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. And to me, when I think about that saying, faith the size of a mustard seed, that means that you have to have, if you have faith, if your faith is 100% pure, 100%, no, not a doubt in your mind, you're going through your life, and your faith in God is 100%, not the slightest little, reservation or doubt or anything, then you can literally move mountains. And that's how I go through life. It's how I make it from one day to the next. Just one day to the next. It's just trusting in God, trusting in my faith, and just flying by the instruments, so to speak, and going through life. So anyway, if we do if if we do if we do end up going to an airport, if we do end up going to the airport, then like I said, come hell or high water, she's going to see that Pacific Ocean. She's going to put her feet in that water. She's going to walk in the surf of that Pacific Ocean. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, unless she calls Uber, of course. If she calls Uber, then there's not much I can do about that. I think there's laws about keeping somebody captive against their will, so I don't want to break any laws. But but anyway, thereafter, I am totally satisfied. I'm totally satisfied going on alone. I'm completely okay, going on alone. I've been to most of these places that on our schedule. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the Grand Canyon, but I've been to these places before, so I won't be missing anything. And I am just as easily content getting back to Sonoma County, Northern California, and putting my camper in a beautiful campground on a lake for a week or two, going on my daily bike ride, and then seeing old friends and taking Sunday drives to the coast, walking in the redwood forest. I'm perfectly okay with doing all that stuff. So anyway, I talked to dear Yanae yesterday. I called Yanae and I told her. I said I said you really should come out. I said you really should. I said you really should come out. You should think about traveling with me for a little bit again. And she said something to the effect of, "Well, I thought you were going to Canada." She can't go to Canada right now because of her status in the United States. She can't leave the U.S. But she said, "I thought you were going to Canada." And I said, "Baby," I said, if you fly out," I said, I won't go to Canada. I said, I'll take you to some other places." And the very fact that she asked me about Canada tells me that she's thinking about it. So time will tell, as the saying goes. But anyway, all right, I need to get on with my day. Let me show you the camera here. I can turn the camera around, I think. Let me see if I can turn the camera around here. I think I can. There we go. Oh, nope. I had it turned around. There you go. So this is the campground, and no reservations. No reservations. You just got to pull in here and hope somebody is pulling out. And it costs about $30 a night to camp. And boy, I had here are some droppings. Look at that. There's life out here in the forest. You see those? That's droppings. I don't know what that is. But those are droppings. I'm glad I didn't step in it. Isn't there a saying that if a tree falls in the wood, does it make a sound? I've often wondered if a bear shits in the wood, does it make a smell? But I don't know. So here's a campsite. You see somebody down here. There's an empty campsite. They checked out, must have checked out early this morning. And here is my campsite right there. And boy, I drove off road yesterday, which is something I wouldn't have done with my Buick. I drove off road yesterday, and I gathered some firewood. You're gonna have to excuse the mess, okay? But here's the campsite. Look at that. You see? So I had still have a stack of firewood that I just drove off and collected in the forest. There's my unicycle and my little generator. Pretty cool, isn't it? There's our little cornhole game, something like that. Not very good at it. Neither is she. Maybe I can take you for a ride around the park on my unicycle as I put my coffee on the back of my truck. Budapest. Oh, how I hope to walk the streets of Budapest again one day soon. There's a gentleman kind of waking up. It's really quiet here. And I can see that she likes to sleep with the window open. You can see. Okay, I'm running out of battery power here, so I got to make this quick. I just got a warning that I'm at 15% battery, so let me jump on my unicycle. You see, I got my nice flannel pajamas. I'm just a man of many talents. Now look at this. You see, these people, they don't mess around. You see that? I mean, they just bring their home with them. And I just got my little stinking camper. Now here's a guy packing up. You see, when I wonder if I should have had kids, you see, I'd have to be, packing up all the kids' toys and, all that kind of stuff. Now here's your Cruise Americas. That's what people told me. They said, just rent an RV for a while. Take a trip. Just rent an RV. See if you like it. And that's what perhaps some of these people are doing. Or you also come across a lot of these folks that are from overseas. Now here's a guy that he's kind of traveling in a van, and he's hauling a little scooter. You see that? Okay, folks, I'm going to try to do a U-turn on my unicycle. Let's see if I can do this. Whoa. All right. And we come back this way. Nice campground. This is called a toy hauler, I think. Maybe that's my next step up, is a toy hauler. I'm waiting for 8 o'clock, because 8 o'clock I can fire up the generator. When I fire up the generator, I can make waffles. Can't make waffles without the generator. Now look at that. That's a Winnebago. Ooh, and this guy, I think the wife just said, "Baby, turn on the heat." Or is that the exhaust? I don't know. All right, folks. So there you have it. There's your morning thoughts as I go uphill. All right. Hope everybody out there has a beautiful day. Take care, and as my dad would say, I love you all.